Hello and welcome to this next episode of Nick's Vintage Book Chat. The book I'm doing this week is Raymond Chandler, Farewell My Lovely. I've just reread it to talk about it now. Chandler is one of my favourite authors. I've read all his books. He didn't write that many detective novels really, but they're all fantastic. This is one of his best. I've read it 2 or 3 times. It's a Philip Marlowe novel, who was the same recurring character in all his books. Marlowe is a private investigator, and in this book he gets involved at the start with an ex-con who's just come out of prison called Moose Malloy. Malloy is described in the book as a giant of a man. He's well over 6 feet tall. He's absolutely enormous, and Marlowe sort of like bumps into him really, and Malloy drags him into this bar where he's looking for his former girlfriend Velma. That is basically the one objective that Malloy seems to want to do. Is looking for his former girlfriend. She's called Velma. She used to work in a bar. So they go up to this bar, Malloy and Marlowe, and it turns out the bar's changed hands and it's now a bar for blacks only. After Moose Malloy beats the bouncer senseless and kills the owner, the action escalates from there, and Marlowe finds himself caught up right in the middle of it. It's a complex novel, a complex story. There's a lot of strands and threads to it, like all Chandler's books. It's not hard to follow, but you might have to read back a couple of times if you stop. There's a lot of characters in it and a lot of threads to it. He gets, later on in the same day, Marlowe gets caught up in another murder where he's trying to trace some missing jewellery, and then he gets involved in with various characters, rich society people, drug peddlers, drug peddling doctors, gangsters, but it all seems to lead back to Moose Malloy, the character he met at the beginning. There's a good array of characters in it. Will-weary policemen, drug peddling doctors, gangsters, beautiful women, playboys. They're all in here, and Marlowe is right at the centre of everything that's going on, and he's trying to make sense and find out, just what is going on, and how he's got involved in it, and he's trying to make sense of it. Philip Marlowe, the central character, is a really good character. He's funny, he's full of quips and one-liners. He's one of the first, I suppose, anti-heroes really. This book was published in, I think, in 1940, and it's an American book, and it's different to a lot of books being published at that time. A lot of English books, British books, detectives and policemen, you knew they were on the right side of the law and they kept to it. With Marlowe, he doesn't mind bending the rules and stepping over the line between legal and illegal, to find out what he wants and get what he wants. Not that he's a criminal or anything like that, but he doesn't mind bending the rules slightly to get the information that he wants. So he was one of the first real anti-heroes, really, of fiction, and he's a brilliantly drawn character by Raymond Chandler, who is just a superb writer. I can't praise him highly enough. His books are absolutely fabulous. If you like crime and mystery novels, you can't do better than go to this fella. He's absolutely fantastic. As I say, he didn't write many Marlowe novels, but they're all absolutely superb. He had a style of writing that's unique, really, and it's never been bettered, in my opinion. I've read a lot of different authors, and the only person that can match him for me is James Ellroy, who I'll talk about in some future episodes, I'm sure. James Ellroy's still writing. He's a fantastic writer, and you can tell that he was very much influenced by Chandler. But Chandler was the first, and probably still the best, writer of the hard-boiled detective novel. He has a way of writing and observing things, and just writing about the minutiae of life, and looking at things from Philip Marlowe's point of view. There's 2 or 3 pages in the book where he's being grilled by a policeman in his office, and Marlowe's watching this small pink bug that falls off the desk, and he's trying to find his way out of the room. And while he's being grilled, the writing, it keeps coming back to this bug, and Marlowe keeps observing it as it moves from one corner of the room to other, trying to find a way out. It's just brilliantly written. And at the end of that scene in the book, Marlowe takes a bit of tissue paper out of his pocket, goes over, picks the bug up, and when he goes outside, puts it into a flower bed. So he's a tough guy, an hard-boiled private eye, but he's got a soft, sensitive side, and Raymond Chandler really observed this really well, and he had a really good way of describing a scene. I want to just read you a short paragraph when he's describing an house that Marlowe goes to, and he says, "The house was a cheerful spot by daylight. Tea rose begonias made a solid pale mass under the front windows, and pansies a blur of colour around the base of a white acacia in bloom. A scarlet climbing rose was just opening its buds on a fan-shaped trellis. There was a bed of winter sweet peas and a bronze-green hummingbird prodding in them delicately. The house looked like the home of a well-to-do elderly couple who liked to garden. The late afternoon sun on it had a hushed and menacing stillness." I mean, that is just a fantastic paragraph, and this book is just full of writing like that. Just the way he uses words to describe places and people is just wonderful. His dialogue is just second to none. It's fast, snappy, just quips all the time. Marlowe, when he's talking to policemen, when he's talking to anybody, he's just back and to and fro, and it's just really snappy and sharp. It's clever, it's satirical, it's just a wonderful book. Marlowe is, I read somewhere once that Marlowe, when you read Chandler's books, Marlowe is a reflection of whoever reads it. So it's a reflection of me, in a way, wanting to be Marlowe. It's bit too highbrow for me, reviews like that. But I kind of get where they're coming from. You're reading it and you think, you know, this man is, you know, I want to be like that. I want to make quips like that. I want to be able to come back when somebody says something to me, and just with a riposte like that, sharp repartee, it'd be wonderful to be like that. Obviously, we can't be like that. He's a fictional character, but he's a wonderful character, one of the best characters certainly in detective crime novels that there's ever been. And Chandler really transcends not just crime, he's just a fantastic writer, period, across the board, any genre. He is right up there with the best, in my opinion, and a lot of people said that about him when he was alive, and certainly after he died, a lot of people said, you know, he should be recognised as one of the great American writers of the 20th century. And I think they're right, they're bang on. His writing and his books are superbly written books. You wouldn't find a better written book of any genre anywhere. He had a interesting life. I think he was born in he certainly spent time in America and Britain, I'm not sure, but he spent time, he served in World War One, and he was a journalist, and then he married quite a well-to-do lady, I think, and that's when he really hit his stride with his writing. But a wonderful writer. I can't recommend him highly enough. There's a old film, if you like old films as well, that were made of this book, probably in 1940s. Well, it must have been, because this was written in 1940, I think, starring Dick Powell. If you can get hold of the film, watch it. It's really good, really true to the book. It's a fantastic film, called Farewell My Lovely, the same as the book, starring Dick Powell. It's a brilliant film if you can get hold of it, and if you can get hold of a copy of this book, I highly recommend it. Just like any Chandler book, if you can get hold of any of his, they're really well worth reading. The Big Sleep is probably his most famous book, which is probably his best book, if I'm honest. It's a fantastic book, really complex story, but well worth taking the time to read. So that's this week's book, Raymond Chandler, Farewell My Lovely. See you next time. Toodle pip.